Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. I don't know if it took that, how long it took, probably 10 seconds. It was not supposed to be like that, but welcome back. We have another video to talk about because we got to talk about a potential run for governor, and that is Stacy Garrity. We know Democrats have picked up a couple wins when it comes to registration, when it comes to the recruitments. They got their best and their brightest, Roy Cooper running, and of course, they do have Sherrod Brown running again for governor in Ohio, even though I have skepticisms on that would actually succeed, mainly because North Carolina and Ohio are states that Democrats really struggle with in off-year elections, specifically not non-presidential elections. We have to talk about our very own Stacy Garrity, who is actually saying stay tuned as she is launching attack ads against Governor Shapiro, who is going to potentially throw the ring in for another bid for the said governorship. And as far as I know, he is pretty much running as we think about it. So let's first off, we can go ahead and go to the said X post from Eric Garrity. So you'll clearly see that Republicans are pretty much have a huge advantage. So just in a week, I want to believe 52,000 votes away from flipping the state red. This is the lowest Democrat-led. This is the lowest point of registration in history for Democrats in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, we believe you Democrats why you're panicking, because it's not looking good, because Republicans are about to become the majority. So we can officially say that the majority of Pennsylvanians are Republicans, even though I kind of already consider Pennsylvania to be a red state just by the aspects it voted for Donald Trump. It also voted for David McCormick last year, and we can further back that up if Josh Shapiro wins his governor's race or loses his governor's race, or we never know, by just the smallest of margins. We could actually back that up. But and it looks like we have a bigger chance of that happening now because Stacy Garrity is a very, very strong candidate. Now, is she going to be more weaker on the front line in leading into the election, meaning the governor's race, because it's a higher office? Will she be more weaker? Well, I'm not going to downplay that. It is a possibility that, for instance, the idea is she probably will lose just because Josh Shapiro is just a strong candidate in general, but he's also a governor that has lost so much respect to mainly the far left. You'll just know that, hey, it wasn't a MAGA Republican. It was not a conservative. It was the far left that tried to pretty much kill him, honestly, by burning his mansion down. So that does show that he is mainly going against the Republicans, but he's also going against another obstacle, the far left, who could vote against him by not showing up for him in the said midterms. And if that's going to be the case, then you can expect and kiss a 2022 Pennsylvania goodbye, because, yeah, on paper, Shapiro is very popular, but then again, I think it's just overrated. Just for instance, not to mention Doug Mastriano, pretty bad candidate in general. In 2018 too, I mean, Pennsylvania has gotten into the trend and the use of just voting typically like this all across the ballot. But now, of course, we have a different year. We have, of course, 2026, and I do think that, you know what, it's going to be somewhat competitive if Stacy Garrity runs. And I think, yeah, Donald Trump endorsed Dab Muser, but he, of course, declined. He says, no, I'm not going to run. He is, of course, running for re-election in the 9th district, even though it would be interesting to see Musser run. But Stacy Garrity is a strong candidate. She did run a close race in 2020, but putting into perspective, she defeated Joe Torsilla in a pretty good election where, you know what, Torsella was originally going to win this, as expected by most, and it just happened to be that he lost this race by less than a point to a state that Joe Biden carried in 2020. So this kind of took people by surprise. Perhaps it made Republicans have a much better year, made them feel a little bit better with their Pennsylvania loss in 2020, knowing that they picked up a race. They flipped a seat. Joe Torsella, which is a very bad sign. He is the incumbent, who is labeled somewhat competitive. He did win the Pennsylvania by like 8 points, which is somewhat easy there. Somehow there was some sort of third party. You had Kristen Combs and James Bapp picking up 2%, 4% for the third party. So it was somewhat competitive over here. But I'm guessing the Trump vote really did help Torsella. As you know, Republicans do struggle being the said low propensity voter in midterm elections. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But of course, with the momentum on the Trump train coming in Pennsylvania, we do know that the assassination attempt on Donald Trump had somewhat of an impact for Pennsylvanians, especially. You did see that 51, 40, 45%. This is like a 7-point victory for Stacy Garrity. Almost 7 points, but at least 6-point victory for Stacy Garrity. So she is popular. She is well liked. And of course, she can prove to be very competitive against the Kamala Harris mob. And honestly, I think we need to embrace that. So yeah, I really hope Stacy Garrity runs. And if she does run, I would personally characterize Pennsylvania to be a moderate state, or possibly not a pickup yet. I have not seen any indications of Pennsylvania being somewhat of a pickup, but it would be somewhat of competitive there. And all the pressure is on Josh Shapiro, because Shapiro would have to really perform outstandingly, because this guy is allegedly going to run for president in 2028, and the Dems most likely could pass him up if he performs a 2-point victory. If he wins by 2 points, his ambitions for the presidency are over. Not to mention, the Democratic Party is like, okay, this guy, they ditched this guy who was a competitive or a possible Kamala Harris running mate sort of deal. They ditched him for Tim Walz because part of the reason was he's Jewish and he ticks off a lot of far left voters. So they bent the knee to the far left in 2024 by ditching Shapiro. And if Shapiro runs again, regardless if he if he manages to win by like 55% or 56%, whatever, the same margin he did 4 years ago, good for him. But don't think you're going to get away winning the Democratic primary, because the Democrats have already embraced far-left lunatics like Zohran Mamdani, and they've kind of embraced the anti-Semitism in their party and the sort of the anti-Israel, the more socialist faction. They control things now. And of course, that will play a much bigger and influential role. But I do want to point out with Josh Shapiro's electoral history, a lot of people are like, oh, Josh Shapiro ready for re-election. He's going to win. Yeah, it's true, but you know for sure that Democrats hype Josh Shapiro a lot, because you do see in 2016, Shapiro was a big name flown around. He did do quite well in 2016. Supposedly, John Rafferty did win, supposedly due to the potential vote when it comes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump won the state in 2016, and that could be a reason why, but his margin was pretty small. Josh Shapiro, 2.78. What was Josh Shapiro even running from? He was a chairman of Montgomery County. All right, so board of supervisors and former state representative. That was his background. So supposedly people in Montgomery County, look at Montgomery County. This Montgomery County, it was more liberal, well, more conservative back then, excuse me. But yeah, we're talking about this county barely going in for Shapiro. So even Montgomery County saying, this guy doesn't really have much jazz. So I find that to be very interesting. He runs for re-election, and he does a 2-point increase. And this time, there's no excuse. Donald Trump didn't win the state of Pennsylvania, although a lot of people will argue, say, it was a dispute in regards to that. Oh, well, the truth is, this is quite interesting to the fact that, he didn't, but now you have Josh Shapiro overperforming, probably because of the Biden vote, but he's not winning a Tim Walz margin in the state of Minnesota. Or something like that. He is in less than 5 points. And I have always categorized governors, candidates that win by less than 5 to be pretty weak. Okay? Pretty weak. Now, I can't say that because you had Andy Bashir winning less than 5. But this is a blue, at the time, a lot of people said blue state. But now you're seeing with raw numbers coming out, Pennsylvania is getting pretty conservative, if not conservative already. Democrats are at their lowest lead in modern history in the state, and it's the likelihood that they're going to turn around the numbers is unlikely, and that Republicans will take the average, like I said, this year will be very likely. I'm talking about probably next month. We should probably be leading in the said registration, which would be absolutely amazing. But yes, you're seeing numbers like this. Then you have the big 2022 governor's race in which Shapiro won, but it wasn't because, Josh Shapiro's so great, yada, yada, yada. It was more that we ran a very controversial candidate who said some controversial stuff, especially when it came to abortion. And then, of course, there was Roe v. Wade, and Democrats were the propensity voters. Republicans didn't feel like they needed to go out and vote, which was a bad mistake for them because we lost so badly. And sure, we saw it coming. We knew this was coming in regards to the polls. I mean, let's be honest. We kind of, Pennsylvania was like closed and shut for us. We didn't don't even bother with Pennsylvania. I don't think did we have any polls? Yeah, we had all these polls. And hilariously, Doug Mastriano didn't even win one. Not even one. And he was just bad. And to the point, he did overperform. Well, technically overperformed the average for the polls. But yes, it is quite interesting that for some reason now Josh Shapiro is now popular, but the only difference is you can expect Josh Shapiro to perform somewhat quite less because he is losing his he is going to be losing a lot of the far left. The far left is either going to draft an independent candidate. If that is the case, that would be devastating. Regardless, though, Shapiro won't be getting that sort of jazz as he would be expected to get in 2022. It's going to be relatively pretty different. In fact, I think Shapiro's probably it's going to be trending more closer. Expect maybe Shapiro winning by 4 or winning by 5. It's not going to be a bloated number. But if that is the case, then this would clearly excite the Republican base for 2028. This state is possibly going to stay Republican, and that would be amazing. For sure, Republicans will be Republicans will be elected to another 4 years in the presidency. So that would be very interesting. I'm hoping Garrity will run. It's really up to her. Let's see if there's any progress. Stacy Garrity, its announcement is pending, but if she runs, that would be amazing. And all support would be backing her because she absolutely is a strong candidate. Yeah, sure, Republicans do very well in the presidential years in Pennsylvania. That's true, because, of course, they're coming out. Most of the Republican voters in Pennsylvania will vote only in the presidency. But then again, we do have a candidate that we can trust. We make Shapiro run for his money, like Red Eagle said. That's kind of the game plan. And we destroy the presidential ambitions of Josh Shapiro. Not saying that he's probably going to win the Democratic nomination anyway. He's a very, very, very controversial figure in regards to probably, I hate to be devil's advocate, but free speech. Just honestly, free speech. Not much of a good candidate there. So I would like, the idea is Shapiro will probably get reelected according to the sources, Pennsylvania voters, the polls, his approval rating, etc. But I'm telling you, Shapiro, if he loses the MAGA base goes and follows Stacy Garrity and doesn't back Shapiro. Not only that, but the far left doesn't back up Shapiro. Shapiro will lose. That's just it. Shapiro registrates with a lot of MAGA voters. He should embrace that. Therefore, not going after the president too much. If he stays quiet about the president, then he could pick up some MAGA voters. But if he goes around and goes and says mean, derogatory things to the president and just say outlandish Zora Mandami stuff, he's still not getting those Jewish voters, those far left voters. He's not. Because the far left vote, we already see what happens when you upset the base. There's no getting them back. They will call you a Nazi. They will call you a fascist. They call him Genocide Josh for a reason, and they will not turn around and support him. They're not going to vote for him. If you upset the base once, there is no forgiving. The Democrat base is totally against forgiveness. The far left, especially, is against forgiveness. They will not backtrack and go back to Shapiro. And that's why I'm saying, okay, if Shapiro wants to win, then he better not make Donald Trump the forefront of his campaign. If that's going to be the forefront of his campaign, he's going to lose. Because who knows? The MAGA voters still like Shapiro. You got to keep it that way, Josh. Don't irritate them. Don't guilt them for voting Trump in. Otherwise, you're going to have no one. You're just going to have the average independent establishment Democrat voting for you. And that's obvious. And without the far left to back that up, you're going to lose. You're losing in the registration. So what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.